everybody, my name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami, and welcome to This Week in the Camper Report Show. Glad to have you.
Hey, Bob, there's so much going on in the industry this week, and we want to take a few moments to update our viewers on what's going on. And before we do that, we want to tell them that as they watch this on YouTube, what they need to do is down in the bottom right, there's a little word that says subscribe. It's probably in red on your computer. Just hit that subscribe button, and a little bell will pop up. Hit the bell, and that means every time we do a new show or every time we do a special edition, if there's breaking RV news for our folks, we will get it to them right away. So hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get back to what we were talking about. The big news that was announced today is
what's on the topic this week, John?
One of America's premier RV shows.
You must be talking about the RV Tampa Supershow.
The RV Tampa Supershow. It has been announced that it will be a live, in-person event. Now, you went to this last year for the first time. Talk about what goes on at that show and why it is of national interest and not just people that are in that Tampa, Florida area.
You know, I did go last year. It was my first time, and this show is kind of the bellwether for kicking off the show season. And it's a huge show. They get upwards of 70,000 people in 5 days, but it's an outdoor show. So an outdoor show in Florida in January 13th to 17th at the fairgrounds in Tampa. And it's just an amazing show for anybody to go to and to visit and see just about everything under the sun. You can see they have a whole building of Prevost bus conversions if you're at the top side, and they got a bunch of people that sell pop-ups and teardrops and folding campers.
Right, and the way I've heard that it's set up is that all the major buses, all the big bus conversions are in one area. The Class Bs are in one area. It makes your day a little easier to deal with because you're not bouncing all around those fairgrounds, and there can be some heavy duty walking.
Yep. And it's by manufacturer. So you look on the map, it is by the manufacturer. And interesting enough, the most expensive products in the show being the bus conversions, the Prevost bus conversions, they are inside their own special building. The rest of them are outside getting sunburned, but yeah, and there's plenty of food, plenty of drink, plenty of entertainment. They have entertainment throughout the show itself. We don't know what the format's going to be given the COVID, coming out of the COVID situation, but we all want to see Tampa take off in January.
So just for example, let's talk about those high-end units. What kind of money are we talking?
$2.5 million at the top end, and they have some pre-owned ones. You can buy a nice pre-owned one, John, for $1.5 million.
Oh, that's a deal.
Yeah,
that's a deal.
Yeah.
You know, throw in the airfare and you're at $2 million, but nevertheless. So I understand that they also offer a 2-day pass because from what I've been told and what you told me and the friends of ours that have gone there, it's virtually impossible to see at any one day unless you're super zoomed in on one specific type of RV.
Yeah, if you, like you said, if you go to the show and you want a camper van, that's fine. You go through the program, you can circle all the ones you can go through in one day and just see all the camper vans and go home. But don't forget, these are RVers. There's not an RVer in the world that can go to a show and say, I'm only going to look at camper vans, because they come out of the van, they look across the aisle, and there's this beautiful full body paint fifth wheel that they say, you know, we've got to, let's just go look. We're not going to buy that, but let's just go look. So you don't ever just go to see what your intended purpose was, because that's the excitement of going to shows.
Yeah.
Feel them, touch them, and see what's out there.
Yeah, and the funny thing is there's so many people that go to shows right after they've bought. You know what? And we've seen that in many shows that we've been to where people, we talk to them and they say, oh, I just bought one. I say, well, why are you here? And they kind of like want to reconfirm that they made a good purchase idea. So again, January 13 through 17, it's in Tampa, Florida. And you know what? Obviously, it's a major city, so there's hotels, there's airfare, there's everything you need to get there. And again, they will be observing all of the current social distancing norms when you get there. Who knows what it will be in January, but whatever it
Yep.
is, it will be.
Well, and also at that show, John, there's a lot of manufacturers reps that are at the booth. So you're talking directly to the factory people along with the dealers who represent the products. And this isn't just a Florida show. People come from all over the country. Obviously, it's a nice time to take a vacation. So if you're in the market for a new RV, why not go to Florida for a week and happen to spend 2 days over at the Tampa Supershow?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to just drive, especially if you're coming from the north or somewhere else. I mean, make it a vacation. Don't just go for the show and then come on back. Now, with the news that came out today, again, the Tampa show came out, and there's other news that came out that projections for the RV industry to have an even bigger year next year. There's kind of a double-edged sword with that, because the industry can only make so many products. So what we found out this past year is that the RV rental industry observed its best year ever. Now, talk about a situation where someone may want to rent an RV because they're not sure what type of RV or what class of RV that they have. Talk about taking advantage of the rental opportunity.
Well, we see two scenarios there, John. One is they want to buy something, but dealer inventories are a little bit low right now, and what they want to buy may not be available, but they still want to go on vacation and get something under their belt, so they want to rent one. The other is the person that doesn't, like you said, doesn't quite know what they want to buy. If they want a motorhome, the B might be too small, the A might be too big, the C might be just right. Well, the best way to do that is to go out and rent them for a period of time and try them out, drive them, see how comfortable they are, and do that. Now, you're right. The rental business in some cases is up 1,600 to 2,000% for people.
Say that again.
1,600 to 2,000%.
Okay.
There are rental companies that are booked. They're booked solid. But you do have a lot of options when you think about renting. You know, we'd like to see them go through the local dealers. Many dealers rent the vehicles, and that's a plus for the consumer. If they're thinking of buying XYZ product, then rent from the XYZ dealer and rent the product that you think you might buy. In many cases, you'll get a credit back on the rental to apply to a new unit, but then you get the exact product that you're thinking about buying, the exact manufacturer to do that.
So Bob, there's really two things to consider here. Number one, you have to look at the brand that you're most comfortable with, and then within the brand, you have to look at the category of RV that you want to look at. So many times, going to a show gives you a little bit of information, but until you drive a Class A, which is the bus type, versus a Class C, which is more of the FedEx van type, or a Class B, which is halfway in between the two, or usually is smaller than a C. Sometimes renting is the smartest thing to do, because you may think that something is the right size until you actually try it.
Yep.
And it's not the right size.
Right. So when you look at rentals, there's a tremendous amount of rental units and rental companies that are out there. So the dealer is a rental agency for what you have. There are national outfits like Cruise America or El Monte who have depots around the country where you can rent. But the hottest thing in rentals right now over the last 2 or 3 years is peer-to-peer rentals. Similar to, everybody's familiar with an Airbnb or vacations to go and what have you, where a property owner rents their property to somebody else. Well, in the peer-to-peer world of RVs, we've got people like RV Share or Outdoorsy. Those are the two leading brands, where if you own an RV and you're not using it all the time, you can enter it and list it on these programs, and you can rent it out. And many times, I mean, an average rental on a peer-to-peer network right now is about $1,500 to $1,600 a week. So if you own an RV, that could pay a couple of months payment on a couple of months where you're not using the unit.
Yeah, well, that's a totally separate topic. If you own an RV and then you want to rent it out,
Yeah.
from that aspect of it. But I think an important point to look at here is that if in the winter months coming ahead, you're planning on going down south, but don't want to rent an RV in Michigan and drive it to Florida, or in Billings, Montana, and drive it to Southern California, through those peer-to-peer rental companies that you just mentioned, you've got the capability to look at the RV that's available at your destination. So then you can drive it around there and not necessarily have to have winter be an issue for you at all.
You don't want to rack up miles and just look at the windshield for 2 or 3 days
Yep.
getting to your destination.
Exactly.
And tying that together with the Tampa Supershow, you can park on the grounds of the Tampa Supershow. So you fly to Florida,
Yep.
you rent an RV, you see a couple of other things, you go to the show, stay right on the grounds for the show, and then go off and drive someplace else, go back to the airport and fly home. So it's a great ride and drive combination.
Great. So Bob, we want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge about the rental market. It was also about the show, because you've done both of those. So it's very important. And it's also very important that you stay with us, because right after this, we've got a couple more great segments coming up on this week's Camper Report show.
Thank you. See you soon. All right, welcome back to Camper Report Show, and my guest this morning is Dwayne Cyrus from Winnebago, an old friend and a young man, but an old friend. That probably sounds better.
That sounds better.
Yeah. We were talking the other day, Dwayne, and about the role of manufacturers and the responsibilities that they have to dealers and sales reps. And one of the things that has always been an issue is sometimes the customer knows more than the sales rep, because they do a lot of their homework. They zero in on a specific model. And in many of our dealerships and across the country, dealers sell more than one product. So there's a challenge for the dealership to understand all the products that a particular manufacturer has. That's from the dealership standpoint and servicing it, but also from a sales standpoint. So when we look at Winnebago and the long history in the RV industry, what types of things do you do behind the scenes, not corporate, secrets, but what types of things in your new role? Explain your new role and what you're doing for dealers around the country.
Well, my new role is training manager, and it's kind of broadly defined, I suppose. My responsibilities include training, leading a team, first of all, a team of training managers, and training the dealer salespeople, and training our internal staff as well. And primarily that's our district managers. Some of the things that you've brought up are more true today than they've ever been, and that is the consumer is armed with an incredible amount of information before they ever get to the dealership. Historically, I think the best way to describe this is our district managers would travel to each dealership and train on new product or existing product that was on the lot, give them feature and benefit walkarounds. We've been very good at that as a dealer, as a manufacturer with our dealers. And then for years, we had a training department that did really, really good job of bringing people together in large groups, lots of product where people could see everything. We would go to regional facilities and bring dealers in from all across that region. Typically, we'd have 150, 200 retail salespeople come in. Well, obviously, we can no longer do that. And we, as a company, we broke away from doing that, actually, when business got really difficult in 2008 and our resources were stretched and limited. We just abandoned the training department, and I think it's something that a lot of companies do when things get tough. Kind of training is one of the first things to go, and there's a new attitude about that within our industry or within our company, our organization, And I've been in this role for about 2 years. Started out kind of on my own, and over the last year, we've added three additional trainers, and those guys work with me. And we had started back in December those regional trainings again. And the first one was at our factory in Forest City, Iowa, which is a great home court advantage for us. You've been there, you've seen our and toured our factory. We can bring salespeople in and arm them with the knowledge of us as a manufacturer, not just an assembler of motorhomes. And we had another one on the schedule for May. Well, it was on our schedule. We hadn't really announced it. And then the COVID thing hit back in March, as you know. And we're not able to do those today. So kind of a new challenge for us, and that is to figure out a way to get the information we need out to our retail salespeople on the front lines. And we're actually still kind of working on that a little bit. In the bigger picture, we've got some things going on that I think are really exciting. But in the meantime,
go back to that factory piece just a minute. You're right. I was out there a couple of years ago at the Grand National Rally, and you were kind enough to take me around to about 7 different plants. And as much as I've been in the industry and as much as I've been an RVer for 40 years, it was probably the most impressive group of facilities, and the manufacturing processes that you build in, and the environmental concerns that you have for your employees and the environment. And my first thought was, if I owned an RV dealership, I would want my salespeople to go through those factories. It's one thing to, look at the brochure and get some training, whether it's virtual or anything else, but I always thought that was a key part, and hopefully we'll be able to return to that once we get past this COVID thing, because I think that's a distinct advantage.
Yeah, it is. It's, as I said, a great home court advantage for us. And as a side note, there's some supply challenges within the industry right now, and we are experiencing some of that, but a lot of the stuff, because we manufacture so many parts and pieces on our own, we're able to continue with our production unabated because we make all that stuff. So we don't have to rely on another supplier. So it's important for consumers and for retail salespeople to know and understand that. And we can today, things are improved a little bit. We can bring dealer salespeople in on a small scale. We've done that a couple of times with just 3 or 4 salespeople. We follow all the COVID protocols that we need to follow, both locally in Forest City, and then some that we have built in ourselves. So we've done some of that. The other thing we've done is what you and I are doing now is Zoom trainings. It really works great. We didn't do this before, but to have a dealer's sales team enter a conference room at their dealership, spread out, socially distanced, following their protocols, but then myself or our training team, some of my training team, or the district managers then get on the Zoom call, and we can walk through new product with them right over this technology. So
that's another great point, though, Dwayne, because if there's some silver linings in this whole COVID crisis thing, one of them, and my previous background before my RV was in the document imaging space and computer technologies. Dealerships and manufacturers have now incorporated technologies that have been out there before, but they were reluctant to do. They have found new ways to communicate with the dealers, with the consumers. And we're probably not going to go backwards on that because they are highly effective. And whether it's the RV industry or the automobile industry or healthcare or manufacturing of anything else, they are discovering. And in fact, I wrote an article in one of the trade magazines just last month on that. They're discovering how to use these technologies to prepare the dealers better, give them more education, which then creates a much better experience for the consumer, because we want the dealers and the manufacturers to be at least equal to and hopefully more informed about the processes than the consumer themselves. The consumer has, would you say that the consumer has forced us to bring ourselves to a higher level of customer service?
Yeah, without a doubt. On a lot of levels, but speaking from a training perspective and a retail salesperson perspective on the lot, I think if I'm a retail salesperson, I want to have as much knowledge as I can possibly have about the products that I have on my lot, because I know the consumer is going to come in fully armed. Everybody learns every single day. I learn something new every day, but I would like to be a step ahead of that consumer. And that's really hard today because there's tons of information out there. And to me, I don't want to use the word embarrassed, but I would be embarrassed if if a consumer came in and told me more about the product than I knew. That just, to me, doesn't sit well. And I think as a sales professional, yeah, there's going to be, from time to time, there's going to be a question that you don't have the answer to, but I want to know where to go get it then. And that's what our training team provides for the Winnebago retail salespeople. That's what our district managers provide. I don't think we're ever going to get to the point, because of the kind of product that we sell, that it's 100% digital or 100% virtual. We're still going to need to do hands-on walk-around training at the dealership level around each individual product, but then supported with digital technology, virtual meetings, whatever we can do until we can get back into large group kind of settings. So we're working on things in the background that I think will be game-changing for the industry. And our goal is to provide the retail salespeople more information about Winnebago than they have our competitive products. As you said earlier on, the dealership has to sell multiple products in most cases.
Well, you brought up the key point for any salesperson. More important today, but when I was out on the road selling for 40 years, I always wanted to know more than my customer. I always wanted to know more than my competition. And when I owned my company and people came to visit, I wanted to hear from those people that during that visit, they learned more about their problems and the solutions, not a sales pitch, because you understood the product, you understood, in the case of an RV, you knew enough about how they wanted to use it so that they could get the right RV with the right configurations. And I think that should be the goal of every salesperson. And I hope that through this COVID crisis, we bring the salespeople up to a much higher level and expertise so that the customer feels comfortable. And quite honestly, dealers that do that are going to get more business because it's going to be discussed amongst people.
Yep, I believe that wholeheartedly. Those that provide that best experience are the ones that are going to get the business.
Yep. Dwayne, I want to thank you very much. It's always a pleasure visiting with you, and now we do it with Zoom instead of in person. But that's valuable insight for our visitors on the Camper Report show, and thank you very much for joining us today.
You're welcome, Bob. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care now.
Thanks.
Hey everybody, it's John DePietro for the Camper Report show. And folks, it might seem kind of crazy to be thinking about reservations for next year because this camping season, 2020, is still going on. But let me tell you, with all the new campers and all the new people that have bought motorhomes and RVs and travel trailers and tents, etc., during this COVID situation, next year is coming real quickly, so you better get your reservations made soon. And to talk about reservations, we're here at Bailey's Camping Resort. We are in Pine Point, Scarborough, Old Orchard Beach, Maine. Say hello to Galen Bailey.
Hey guys, how are you?
So Galen, this year was kind of, would you say, a transition year with this whole COVID thing, to say the least, as far as to say the least. Okay, but with RVers multiplying and RV sales as high as they've ever been, you must have seen an influx of new people coming to camping.
Very much, and that ranges from new people. I've talked to someone who bought a 45-foot Prevost. He was a first-time camper.
Folks, we don't necessarily recommend that to be your first unit, a 45-foot Prevost.
Your typical story is, hey, we started with a tent or a pop-up,
right.
Something small, and which we've had plenty of this year. But right. I did talk to a guy for about 10 minutes this is my first RVing experience. I bought a Prevost. So I said, all right, well, good luck to you, sir.
Good luck. Go to another campground because we don't want you taking down all of our power as you back.
I helped him down to the site, which was I think, a good thing. Yeah.
Folks, let's face it. The normal progression is tent to, what do you call it, a pop-up
hybrid
travel trailer,
yeah,
small Class C to
Yeah.
a Class A.
Yeah.
This guy went,
He
this
just
must,
went 0 to 100.
right to the head of the class. So we're talking about the importance right now of making reservations for next year, especially in high tourist areas like yourself, where in New England and you've got the beach just down the street. It's never really too early to make reservations, is it?
Absolutely. You know, we year to year have a lot of future reservations for the next year or two, but with the combination of so many new campers really antsy to come back if they've liked their first experience, or get out because they couldn't get in anywhere this year. Also, a lot of people who canceled because of COVID just pushed their deposits out to next year. So
Yep.
there's just a gigantic influx of,
Yeah.
Of future reservations.
And you can see by the traffic that's going behind us, this year's camping season was pushed back by what, about a month or two?
At least, yeah.
So people are now taking advantage of every time the forecast is going to be, you know, in the 60s or so.
Yeah. In Maine, we're having a phenomenal September weather-wise. So much that we're having a drought, but the weather's been so nice that our weekends have been record-breaking for us this year.
Mm-hmm. So as far as looking at next year's calendar, you can find the 2021 calendar anywhere, but you're suggesting that people pick those vacation, especially if they want a whole week at a time, right, Tom?
Yeah, a week or
Galen?
two, definitely. The sooner you can plan with your work or your family to make that vacation time, definitely book. It's filling up quite quickly, a lot sooner than before.
Okay, and just because I know this is a good-sized campground, it's over 1,000.
750 sites.
750 sites,
Yep.
okay, close. I was rounding off, 750 to 1,000, okay. 750 sites. People think, well, they can always go in there, but we've been here during the summer, and you utilize every square inch of this space.
Yeah, as comfortable as possible, especially this year. But yeah, I mean, when we're busy, we're busy. It may take a little bit longer than your typical campground to fill up all those spaces, but we get there.
Okay, so if people want to reserve with another family member or another couple, they should make that note on their reservations, right? That they want adjacent spots.
Yeah, generally they will call us and do it together. They'll either be on a group call, or they'll have one family member that will hold 4 or 5 other spots, and the rest of the families will call in.
Okay.
That's what we typically do.
But we don't want people to think that, you know, Aunt Mary called and Uncle Bill called and my cousin called, and, you know, when in fact, should you suggest that one person do it for everyone?
That method we find works the best.
Okay.
They all get together and are able to tell one contact. Therefore, they're not all kind of mismanaging dates and what area they thought the other person said they were in.
Because sometimes
having one contact is definitely helpful. Almost like a wagon master for a big group.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rather than having one person show up on a Friday night when in fact the reservations were made by the others starting on Saturday night.
Yeah, and that will happen too. If they don't communicate well, you know, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm coming in for such and such dates," and well, no, your family members are coming in 3 days later. I better call you back.
Oh, they didn't tell me that. That type thing.
Yeah.
So, folks, you got to understand that there's a finite number of beds here, if you will.
Yeah,
there's
right,
a finite number of spots, and regardless of where you're going, and even if the campground is open year-round, like they are in California and Texas and Florida, now is the time to start making those reservations to avoid that disappointment.
Absolutely. Especially in July and August here in the Northeast, in southern Maine. It's our big tourist season, so you know it's everybody gets booked up in July and August.
Right. I don't know if our cameraman. Yeah, and as far as rentals are concerned, now that is a big going concern now, where people, because of the COVID thing, all wanted to go out and buy a camper. Well, some couldn't buy a camper.
Yep.
We've got dealers that we've talked to that said, you know what, I can take the money for you, but you're not going to get it until like November or December.
I've talked to a few seasonals that are still waiting 3 months for their new unit that they purchased. Yeah.
So as far as like in this particular place, and I know it's the big trend nationally, that people want to take advantage of the camping experience, but for one reason or another, don't own a motorhome or a travel trailer.
Yep.
How do campgrounds solve that dilemma?
What we offer here are rental trailers. They're Jayco, J-Flight, 2 different sizes that we offer. So it gives a great first-time experience, or someone who's interested in possibly buying a travel trailer, new to camping, you know, just to get their feet wet without having to commit. You know,
so you can rent a travel trailer.
Yeah, you can rent. We have them pre-placed on sites. They stay there all year. They're all set up. It's pretty much a turnkey situation.
So you just like a hotel.
Exactly.
I mean, you just come in and it's all set up. The
But
sewerage is.
I think much better, because I don't think you have a campfire in your hotel room.
Right, I know. You would, but it probably wouldn't be well received. And these are units. How old are these units now?
They are
these...
either brand new or 1 year old.
Okay, so these are not units that people have left behind.
Absolutely not. No,
Okay.
We purchase a new fleet every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as cabins are concerned, there are some places that have rental tents and some people that have yurts and that type thing.
Yep.
So there are a wide variety of different accommodations.
Yeah, along with
right?
the rental travel trailers that we offer, we do have cabins as well. They're about 40 feet long, 14 to 20 feet wide, depending on which model. But yeah, we have those as well. They're like mini houses. They're great.
There you go. So it might seem a little bit crazy that you now are looking for next year when, in fact, some people haven't even taken their vacation this year. But folks, we want to let you know and take it from the experts, the people that own the campgrounds, that now is the time to start making reservations for the 2021 camping season, especially, Galen, if it's around a holiday weekend.
Absolutely. Yep. We have a Columbus Day weekend special we've been doing for about 20 years now. It's a Halloween-themed weekend, and it's already sold out for next year.
Next year.
People are booking for 2022.
Okay.
And
And
just
it's
to make
not
sure
even
they can.
happened this year.
Yeah.
And next year is sold out.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so I know you said the bookings are ahead of schedule.
Absolutely.
And folks, we want to let you know, if you're new to camping, don't be disappointed because you can't go anywhere in your camper. So whether it's a drivable, whether it's a towable, or even if you don't have one, now is the time. Call your favorite campground and don't be disappointed for next year. So for the Camper Report show, it's John DePietro along with Galen Bailey saying, let's go camping.
Thank you for joining us on the show this week.
And if you like this show, hit that subscribe button down below. Down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little button that says subscribe. And then when that is done, there's a little bell that pops up. Hit the bell so that every time we have a new show, you'll be the first to see it.
And tell all your friends about it.